lot of people have been wanting to really get into the insight, the real knowledge on, the truth about crystals. We see this everywhere. This is something that a lot of you who have spiritual family members have seen. The collection of crystals and rocks and amethysts, what have you, is something that we've seen from people, centuries, for a long time. A lot of you have a lot of amethysts, a lot of crystals and rocks in your homes. I have a lot as well. And a lot of people want to know what is the truth about them. What crystals to buy, what rocks to purchase. What is the whole purpose of that? Is there any real validity to what people say about crystals? Do they have any, healing powers? Do they do anything? What is the science behind them? What is it? A lot of people just really get into crystals for how they look. A lot of people read a lot of books and do a lot of research on crystals to try to really understand the purpose for them, how to activate the chakras using the crystals, and what crystals are the best to use, where to get them from, so on and so forth. But, it's a big misconception about crystals. And a lot of people are not going to really understand, the true use for them. And it's almost in the same realm as, they put them in that same category, but marijuana, as I said before, a lot of people use marijuana and they waste it. Marijuana use really is for the purpose of meditation, plain and simple. It's to get you to that place. It's what you're supposed to use it for. So you're wasting an altered state of consciousness to help you really develop spiritually if you're just sitting around getting high. You're just smoking weed for recreational use. You're feeling you're feeling that yoke. You're feeling that energy breach. You're feeling that, that altered state of consciousness. For what? For nothing. You're not absorbing anything. You're not putting out any type of, energy or, trying to connect consciously with anything to bring any, use, to the marijuana. So if you're smoking weed, you want to use it for meditative purposes to really get you into that altered state. And if you can maintain and control meditation within that state, you can have real benefits with marijuana. And this is what the ancients used it for, Indians as well. So crystals is basically the same. We're going to get to at the end of the video how to properly use them. But first, of course, there's understanding that must be had. And there's a lot of stuff people got to understand. But first of all is the official, explanation from science, the official thing that they tell us about crystals. And this is basically what they say. Now, it says here, is there any science behind crystal healing? Now, don't shoot the messenger. It says there is no peer-reviewed scientific evidence that crystal healing has any effect. It is considered a pseudoscience. Alleged successes of crystal healing can be attributed to the placebo effect. And the placebo effect is, of course, they had a whole test where, if you don't know already, they give you a pill that does nothing and a pill that does something and tell you that the pill that does nothing is absolutely great. And you basically heal yourself based upon that knowledge. But really, it's nothing. It's all you. The scientific evidence suggests that no, crystals do not have any mystic powers or attributes that can aid in physical, mental, or spiritual healing or well-being. According to science, crystals do not have any healing or restorative powers over the mind, body, or soul, but belief can certainly be a powerful thing. So now, one of the things you got to think about, and, by the way, we're going to bust all that up that I just read. It's bogus. We're going to bust that up. But one of the things you got to think about, one, is crystals. It's crystals. You got to think about it. If crystals had this power, if they can heal and restore and everything that it's talking about, they would cost a lot more money. A lot of people probably wouldn't even sell them. They probably keep them themselves, or they'd be super expensive if you do sell them. But we don't see this. A lot of you have crystals in your house. A lot of people absolutely have no clue. Now, understand this is by design. When you read articles like that from Google to kind of sort of put people off, it lowers the price of crystals unless you get a huge amethyst or something like that, or something of a more rare quality like a diamond or ruby or what have you. Those ones cost money. But regular crystals, which we'll get into the composition, cheap for the most part. But they understand, and I understand, One, they know you're not going to ever figure out the purpose of crystals and everything that's behind it that we're going to go through in this video. They know you're not going to do that. A lot of people, even if you did research on crystals, there's a lot of books out there, a lot of people talking about it. They know the deeper meaning and what you have to go into to really get people to understand what that's about and why for so long so many civilizations, even still to this day, use them. People swear by them, and they are in so many facets of healing and spiritual practices throughout the planet. And it's a reason for this, and it's a very real reason that they do work. And if you know how to activate and use them, you can get the benefits of them, which we're going to discuss in this video. But to understand, you're not going to understand that, and it's going to be hard to grasp for a lot of people. So to make sure the price is low, because people are like, oh, they cheap, so they must don't work. And it's put in that whole realm of pseudoscience, as I said, placebo effect, as we read. And people typically discount them as, well, they just pretty rocks. I like them because they're pretty, so I'm going to buy them. But what's the truth? What is this all about? What is the truth about it? This is what we're going to get into. So now, despite what the article is talking about, you got to understand this. Crystals are made of elements, plain and simple, elements. So you have to think about that, elements. Now, this is the part that's going to be tough for people to understand, because a lot of people read stuff and just accept it when it kind of sort of makes sense. But you got to really start thinking about stuff in terms of you, in terms of matter, material, energy, and what have you. So now you have crystals is made of two of the most abundant elements, which is silicon and oxygen. Plain and simple. Now, as I talked about before, understanding one, consciousness creates energy. Energy gives us these atoms. Certain amounts of atoms gives us elements. These elements create the physical, world that we know today, physical universe, including us. So you have silicon and oxygen makes crystals, but silicon and oxygen just so happen to be two of the most essential elements in the creation of us. Plain and simple, the creation of life. So silicon and oxygen as a compound makes up 59% of the Earth's crust. Think about that. This is an abundant element that we're talking about. I mean, it's everywhere. So you got to put that into perspective and understand, one, we're talking about something that is in you. So that's one thing, when they're talking about snow effect and everything like that, you got to think about stuff like that. But that's a compound. That means together. We're talking about, two of the most abundant elements that exist. So now, as I said, you have silicon, oxygen can be found in the body. Now, whenever silicon is dealing with the body, they refer to it as silica, which is basically a silicon dioxide. Now, silica basically deals with the corrective tissue of the skin. It deals with anything. Anytime your skin needs to be repaired or if it's damaged, silica helps with that. It basically helps with any collagen-based part of the skin, hair, toenails, skin, what have you. And collagen basically makes up your corrective tissue, of the skin. So silica deals with this. Now, silica responsible for strong bones and a lot of stuff dealing with your skin. I mean, it's something that's working for you basically every day. Now, it says here, the role of silica in your body. Humans use silica as a food additive and a filter in drugs and vitamins. It has a low bioavailability, meaning your body will only absorb a tiny amount of silica and excrete the rest in urine. Most of the silica in your body is in a form called orthosilicic acid. It exists in your bones, tendons, aorta, liver, and kidneys. You'll find silica in a lot of places: food, rocks, plants, medicine, cosmetics, toothpaste, and those little dry gel packs that are packed in with your product packaging to absorb moisture. We know what those are. There's even silica in your body, as I just said. The most common form of silica is quartz, a component of stone, concrete, and sand. Simply put, silica is everywhere. If you've touched a rock or been to the beach, you've handled silica. Don't worry, it's mostly harmless and can even be beneficial. So now it says, the most common form of silica is quartz, which quartz is a rock, crystal, however you want to say it. But again, remember, silica is in the body. So you got to understand, as I said before, you have consciousness creating energy, energy creating these atoms, atoms giving us elements. Different amounts of these atoms will give us different elements. So as I said before, 20 hydrogen atoms to give you calcium. Calcium makes up our bones and teeth. And 14 hydrogen atoms that give you crystals. Now, 14 hydrogen atoms basically bonded under pressure. It's a lot of pressure. Bonded under pressure basically form into these three-dimensional repeating patterns that basically gives crystals its shape. So you have, crystals in the body. And it's something to really think about, crystals in the body. If you ever heard of vertigo, then you understand about crystals being in the body. Now, it says here, experts who treat dizziness estimate that about 20% of all dizziness is due to loose crystals or air rocks in the inner ear. The condition known as benign paroxysmal positional vertigo, or BPPV, is usually treated with a series of simple head movements aimed at putting the dislodged ear rocks back where they came from so they can be cleared away by the immune system. BPPV can be triggered by head injury. People get punched in the head to get dizzy. Injury or virus. The condition is more common in older adults. Tiny air rocks keep us balanced. Within the inner ear, there's a little pouch called the utricle that contains about 1,000 little pebbles made of calcium carbonate. The tiny rocks serve an important purpose. They stimulate nerve cells when we move our head and send signals to our brain that guide our sense from up and down. The trouble is that sometimes the little rocks fall off, explains Dr. Timothy Hain, a dizziness expert at Northwestern University. When the rocks fall into one of the inner ear canals, the brain gets confused. As the rocks roll around in the canal, the brain senses that the head is moving a lot more than it actually is. The result, vertigo. Now, it's hard for a lot of people to believe that you can actually have rocks and crystals formulating within your body. We're talking about stones, stuff that you find on Earth and supposedly in outer space. You have to make that connection. It's essential to understanding this whole point about crystals. Think about that. Stones being produced within the body. And it's not just vertigo. You have salivary gland stones. Now, salivary gland stones is basically when chemicals in your saliva basically seep. Too many of these chemicals seep into glands into your mouth and they overwhelm that gland and these stones are produced. It's a horrible sight. You don't want to look it up. But you get these stones, being produced within the mouth. You also have, of course, kidney stones. And kidney stones, a lot of people always ask that question, is a real stone. We're talking about real stones being produced. And these stones is made of freaking calcium, calcium oxalate, phosphate, uric acid, and other elements that's produced in your body. Now, a lot of people seen these kidney stones when they pop them out. They be these rocks, and it's real rocks. It's crazy. They don't really know the cause of kidney stones, but they think it's due to having a diet of too many, they say rock producing foods, beets, nuts, spinach, rhubarb, tea, stuff like that, believe it or not. But you have these things that can produce rocks within the body. Another one is gout. It says here, I'm going to just read right here. It says, gout arthritis is caused by the deposition of crystals of uric acid in the joint. You look down here at the picture, you see these little crystals. And I'm just talking about uric acid being one of the components, the elements basically found in these kidney stones. So it's a lot of things that we can see where you have the production of rocks, crystals, formulating within the human body itself. So now, as I said, you have quartz. Quartz being one of the most common forms of silica, crystalline silica to be exact. Now, you have silicon and oxygen, which is a great conductor of electricity. Quartz is one of the best conductors of electricity, which is why you find quartz in, microchips. You find them in many microchips. You find them in any kind of phone, computers, TVs, any kind of smartphone, any kind of major electronic devices. You're going to find quartz. It's just that simple. And the reason why quartz is used because not only is a great conductor of electricity, it has a property basically called piezoelectricity. Now, piezoelectricity is a property that basically is when you have the pressure, mechanical pressure that converts into electricity. So the mechanical part being basically the pressure of, a liquid, a gas, or a fluid that's being converted into electricity. Now it says here, when a quartz crystal is cut or struck together, the pressure applied to it generates an electrical charge. When an electrical charge is applied to the quartz, the crystal distorts And as the voltage is removed, the crystal creates an electrical field. It vibrates sometimes 30,000 times per second. Considering our bodies are constantly producing electrical signals, the interaction between us and crystals is pretty clear.